Oh man! Oh, there it is. We are live. Oh man, we have with us right here the apologist Jamie Goodlet from the God or Not podcast. Oh man, it's a pleasure to have you. We had some technical problems for a bit. It was supposed to go live about an hour ago, but now we got it. We got it. Finally got it, man.
We're here,
How you
buddy.
doing,
We're
Jamie?
here. Good. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, man. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here because honestly, it's pretty unusual to see a podcast, your podcast, the God or Not podcast, where you got where you share a podcast with an atheist. I think that's pretty common. Like having a show together, it's quite odd, man. Why don't you tell us about that experience? How has it gone so far? How did you guys even came up with that? Like, how did he agree? We've got so many questions on that.
Right, so I met Scott, my interlocutor, Scott Dickey. I met him in Facebook of all places, in a theological or one of those groups that's like Christian atheist debate groups. And I posted somebody posted something, and I said, "Oh, there's plenty of evidence for God's existence." And then he retorted, "Like what?"
Oh man, it's muted. Hey, buddy, your mic is muted. Oh, yeah. There we go.
That's weird. I don't know why that happened. What was the last thing you heard?
You were saying about that you guys were keyboard warriors in some Facebook group.
Oh yeah, right. So I said there's plenty of evidence for God's existence, and he said, like what? And then it was kind of off to the races there, and we developed a relationship in that thread, actually. And then he had made the suggestion, I made the suggestion, hey, why don't we do something like this, like video, where I can see you and we could talk, because I don't do as well as like a warrior on the keyboard. That's not me. I'd rather have a conversation face to face, something like this. So I had mentioned to him, let's try doing this. And so we did something like that, and we did it a couple times, and then I don't know, maybe a month into us doing a few of these, he mentioned, hey, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And maybe we should do one together. And so the idea of the podcast, God or Not podcast, is basically we co-host. And each episode we take, some kind of controversial topic. Usually don't delve into politics, although we have occasionally. It's usually theological, so we'll dive into, free will or the the Kalam cosmological argument or something like that, and then we will go back and forth. And it's fairly unscripted. We have a general outline that some ideas, so we don't want to catch each other off guard. We're not looking for a gotcha moment. That's not the idea. We really do want to push each other's worldview. We do want to challenge each other, but not in a way and when we're not necessarily trying to win some kind of argument. We just want to move the discussion along and try to have good discussions. And so that's how it started. And we're probably 15, 20 episodes in now, and they can be quite lengthy, anywhere from an hour to 2 hours long. So I know it's a little niche. Some people don't like real long podcasts, but it's our podcast, so that's what we're gonna do. Man.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's my thing. Like, I like the short ones too, but I just get a little bit more in depth if you do a little bit more time. But yeah, I get you, man. That's actually how I got into YouTube, social media, and all that. Because I was a hardcore keyboard warrior, man. Like, I would type for hours, man. There has been comments that it literally took me 1 hour of typing to put them out there, man. Yeah, I was that guy, but I would just be fighting with all kinds of atheists and liberals online, and you know what? Like, I was like, no, man, it's taking like too much time off. I'm on my schedule, so yeah, I might as well just start a podcast. And now if I see someone put something online, man, I just ignore it and send a link or whatever.
There have definitely been. I have a much better filter now, so that there are a lot of things I don't even touch. And I try to kind of take the biblical idea of these kind of discussions, whereas, there are some people who aren't really looking for a conversation, and those people, I'm just going to shake the dust off of my shoes and move on. But there are other people who, if they're posing some honest questions and have some honest pushback, then I'm willing to dive in. But I definitely do have to have a good filter, because obviously I have a job, I have a family, and so I have to be very, very careful on how much time I'm spending doing stuff like that, which ultimately doesn't make a huge difference. These kind of things are more beneficial.
Yeah, those are unicorns, to be honest. I would really love to get those kind of atheists that actually want to learn and stuff. I've gotten a couple of those, but usually you get a lot of God haters. Like, not just I don't believe, but you get God haters.
The anti-theists. Anti-theists.
Exactly, man. But you know what? It's pretty cool that you guys actually like have an order. And or the set of points that you guys are going to go through, because as you were saying, if you don't do that, whoever is unprepared or less prepared is gonna lose at that point, man. So it's good that you guys study beforehand, that you guys know what the points that you guys are going to touch. That's much more productive. So guys, if you're watching this, please join the God or Not podcast with my friend here, Jamie Goodlet. And yeah, man, that's pretty interesting. So I guess we'll go ahead with the tactics, because we probably already clickbaited some of the viewers already. Yeah, man. So yeah, we'll tell how these guys are pretty bad at billions and the worst people ever.
That's right. Baby eaters. Yeah.
Yeah, they put them in the microwave and put them on high in 3 minutes. They're terrible. Man, just kidding. Now there's some good atheists. If you're a good atheist watching this, not many atheists watch my content anyways, but we got most Christians but yeah, no, we don't hate atheists. We get along with you guys. We would try to just be fair, but there are some tactics that we believe that are outright dishonest, and they are pretty common in the internet. So that's why I have my friend here, Jamie, to come join us, so we can deal with those extremely common objections and tactics that you see from atheists online. But yeah, let's go with the first one, which is cynicism or skepticism. They call it skepticism, but we would say that there's a point in which it just becomes outright cynicism. You pretty much just do whatever it takes to not get to the right point. And we see it, of course, with the resurrection case. Usually, that doesn't matter how much evidence you put. Usually, you see kind of a how do you call it? They introduce naturalism as a starting point, or as a dogma, they don't consider theism as a possible explanation. But what can you tell me from your experience in your podcast with your co-host? How has that cynicism or skepticism, maybe some examples of the tactics they use?
Yeah, so the one thing about my interlocutor, Scott, is I think he's honest, right? I just think he's wrong. And I think that I don't think that he's nefarious. He's not like wringing his hands in the back room like, I can't wait to use this tactic on the theists. I don't think that's him. I just think that they have been they have been I don't want to say programmed, but they're hearing these things, these talking points, and for the resurrection, Scott introduced aliens as a possibility. Now, he doesn't believe aliens actually did it. He just thinks that aliens explain the resurrection as good as a spiritual explanation. And I tried to explain to him, well, you have to take into it the Jewish first century culture backdrop with this. You can't just say aliens. You have to give me a reason. Well, first of all, do we know aliens exist? Do we know, if they do exist, could they have gotten here? If they are here, why have they only intervened in one event in human history and then disappeared? So it's this idea that if I could throw out any possible alternative explanation, then your argument is bunk. And that's just not true. The question isn't who has the explanation, it's who has the best explanation. And so that's what I tried to explain. And that's some of the stuff we see. I mean, there's a point like we talked about in one of our last podcasts, his epistemology. And we talked about the idea that and he has set up an epistemology, and I don't think purposefully. I just think this is he's a product of his environment, but he has set up an epistemology such that there isn't any evidence that I could ever bring that would satisfy him. And I gave several examples, like thought experiments, and basically I would have to rule out every possible naturalistic explanation before he would accept any kind of supernatural explanation. And that seems amazingly unreasonable. But he doesn't see it that way because he'll say, well, you and I both agree the natural world exists. You're the one making the claim that the supernatural world exists, and I don't see it. And so the whole point is now I have to try to convince him for my argument to go through, when in reality that's not how arguments work. You're not the arbiter of truth.
Yeah, Peter Left Lake. Yes, you can ask questions. You can ask them, and I guess we'll be answering along as we're talking. But yeah, I guess you viewers, you guys can ask questions, and we'll be answering them here in the live. But yeah, something that caught my attention from what you were saying is that they believe that just bringing objections helps their case. And to explain it more to our viewers a little bit, let's set a thought experiment or an example on how these can be extremely unreasonable. For example, let's say if we're talking about the premise that if your mother loves you, so one can just bring whatever objections like an atheist would. So you can just pretty much say, maybe that she's controlled by the government and that she's been raising you like to lie to you and just pretending that she loves you, but in reality it's a government experiment. I mean, you cannot prove that wrong. You have to investigate it and get evidence for that, but you cannot prove that wrong. But just bringing that objection would prove that it is wrong or unreasonable to believe that your mother loves you. Other things you could be saying something like well, maybe she is not actually your real mother. I mean, that's possible, but if, let's say you look like her, you have the same DNA, a blood test, whatever, that will be more than enough to make an inference to the best explanation that your mother actually loves you. But you can say that is not possible because maybe she cheated on the blood test. Maybe she photoshopped some pictures. I mean, you can still just bring objections, like even as unreasonable as they are, you can just bring objections. So
it'll never end, and that's the thing. It'll never end, and no matter what evidence we bring, and no matter what objection of theirs we tear down, there's always a possible another objection. I mean, it's straight up like solipsism, and solipsism for those viewers who don't know is this idea that that you are the only thing in reality, that the external world does not exist, and so you as a mind or whatever you are as consciousness, you're the only thing that exists, and everything else around you is an illusion. And so there's no way I can ultimately prove that wrong, because they can always say, so they can always give some other instance of the exterior world somehow being an illusion, and so there's no way I could prove that wrong. And the same is true with that kind of cynicism and skepticism. Is there's no matter what evidence I bring, they can always tack on something else, as another objective. And it's like, well, there's just no way. I can't exclude all naturalistic explanations, nor should I have to.
Yeah, exactly, man. I was talking to an atheist last week, and this guy pretty much. I asked him like why do you don't believe the case of the resurrection? And he was like, oh no, that's because you cannot pin it down. Like I can always bring this objection or that objection, and there always seems to be an objections or a way out for everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's not what we're arguing for. We're arguing that it is the best explanation. We're not arguing that there's no that there's a dead end for you guys, whatever. Like that's not what we're arguing. We're arguing that that pretty much they don't. That you get a point in which you're just bringing objections as unreasonable as they are. I mean, they're possible, and prove me wrong. How do you do that? But interested best explanation. Right. But over here we have a question from our buddy Peter Lake. So, what's your opinion about these YouTube atheists, namely Pelagia and Pine Creek? You want to start or you want to start?
I don't have much to say about them other than I think that some of the most recent stuff they've done has been better. I think that they have raised their level of scholarship. And I think that has been done because they've had interactions with people like Braxton Hunter, and so I think that. Initially, for both of those guys, we would see different objections they would bring up that are just, dare I say, ridiculous. It's just not brought in scholarship, whatever, but they still use those arguments, and they're easily refuted. But I think because, they've had other people like Braxton Hunter come in, and Sean McDowell did a little thing, I think, with Pelagia maybe, and I think that has raised the bar of scholarship, and so I think they've done a little bit better recently. I mean, I'm not overly impressed, but I don't think they're hacks either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've seen that they actually had some hosts, and I've seen those kids had it with Braxton Hunter. But the thing is that they have been moving onto like rejecting their initial position. So they started out like being. Actually not knowing what they're talking about. So one of the things most common to filter out atheists online, the one thing that you got to watch out more is whether they are a new atheist or they're a classical atheist. If they're a new atheist, it's probably trash, man. So Pine Creek and Pelagia certainly started pretty hard on new atheism. Mm-hmm. So I would say it is bad, but I'm not sure how far they have moved onto classical atheism, but they've certainly gotten a little bit better with the arguments. But still, if they're still on new atheism, it's not worth it, man. Mm-hmm. And I guess we can tell you some tips on how to identify a new atheist, how to differentiate from a classical one. So pretty much you get by new atheist, that means that they redefined the word atheist. It's not what it has meant before. From the Greek atheos, it has always been contextually in debate throughout history. Has always been about having the burden of proof. So you usually get people that are pretty much. How would you say it? They're burden of proof phobic. Right. They're scared of the burden of proof. They don't want to bear it. Why? Because it's hard. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of study. It takes a lot of books read. Mm-hmm. It takes a whole lot of time to do that. And the New Atheist movement is pretty much about saying, okay, I don't have any burden of proof. Then you prove Christianity, and when you try to prove it, they reply with a broken epistemology. And they pretend that they're being intellectual. So
they sit there and they sit there and they play. They throw stones at my glass house all day, and then they refuse to let me throw stones. And that's part of the new atheists is that they will say, oh no, I just lack belief. I just lack belief in something, and so I don't have any burden to hold. But then even when you switch the topic, okay, well let's not go with that. Let's say what better explains reality, atheism in the traditional sense of not being a god, or theism. And even then, what I ultimately get is stuff like, well, we just don't know. And then dead stop. That's it. We just don't know. And there, we just don't know somehow defeats my evidence. I'm not sure how that works, but that's how it is. They take this humble approach of, well, we could say we just don't know because we just don't know. And it's somehow humble. But of course, if I bring something up like, well, that's just part of the God's nature, and we're just not sure how that works, they'll try to gig me on that. They'll say, oh, mystery. I'm like, well, you do it all the time. You do it all the time with, well, we just don't know. Can I just not know for a change? Am I allowed to just not know? So that's part of the problem, is that there's no end game with the new atheist. I can't ever gain any ground because of the way they have things set up. It's almost like the game is rigged in their favor from the start.
Yeah, let me give an example, Peter, so you can get a real life example on how this objection works. So imagine that there was a homicide. You don't know who did it, but let's say there's Johnny, there's Jill, and there's I don't know Jamie Goodlet. You have the three guys. And let's say that in the knife you found the fingerprints of Jamie Goodlet. Let's say you ask at his job, and he was not at his job or at his house in the murder scene. Let's say you find his hair on the crime scene. Let's say you find people that are giving eyewitness testimony that they saw him there and that he has motives. So imagine that you have just a mountain of evidence for a position, but again, what we were talking before, that they would argue that, oh, you don't have Cartesian certainty of that. Maybe someone put the hair there. Maybe someone put the fingerprint. Maybe someone trying to incriminate him. So, but that's not how it works. They cannot make it. They cannot make it work like that. So again, we're going back to an inference to the best explanation and just saying, okay, well, there's all these other options. So I'm going to be very humble and not saying that I have Cartesian certainty. And I'm just going to say, I don't know who killed this guy. We can have a mountain of evidence, but since we have all these possibilities, we don't know. That's not humble at all. That's been cynical. That's right. I'd say that's like a real life example of what it would look like.
That would be like the detectives coming on scene and one detective saying, "Oh yeah, I think Jamie Goodlet did it," and then the other detective saying, "Well, what do you think?" And the one detective saying, "Well, I don't know, and I don't need to know." Well, that's fine, but you're not moving the conversation along. You're not helping your fellow boys in blue if you're not coming up with another possible suspect, if you're not trying to negotiate these twists and turns with the evidence. If you just decide that you want to play this, well, I just don't know game, which, listen, there are times when we don't know. I understand that, but it can't be a defeater for what I do know. And that's part of the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And we have another guy over here. We have our friend, 3 steps ahead. He's asking the question: you can prove solipsism to be irrelevant if you're referring to a brain in a bat. That will still be a contingent existence, which would require an explanation. Got any comments on that, Jamie?
No. My only reason for bringing up solipsism is I was just explaining that that their position it's much like solipsism in that with the solipsist there isn't any no matter what evidence I give the solipsist, he can always fall back and say, well, it's this or it's that. He can always fall. He has a way out always. You cannot falsify it. You cannot falsify solipsism. And what I'm finding is the same thing is true with many atheists, is that there's no way to falsify any of their beliefs because they can always fall back on something. They always end up like we were talking before. I'm not sure if it was in this live stream or not, but you were talking about how, they'll always keep falling back and falling back and falling back. And then there's just no way to pin them down on anything. And so that's kind of what I was referring to, is that there are those similarities between the solipsist not being able to prove to him the external world exists, and the atheist not being able to falsify his particular belief.
Yeah, I want to add something to solipsism. So, it is impossible, or at least incoherent, for a Christian to ever ascribe to being a solipsist. It's incompatible with our worldview, because we're making truth claims, and there are a couple ways that we can deal with that. One of my favorite ways is either proving that it leads to a logical contradiction. And usually that can go in the sense of a transcendental argument. When it comes, for example, to the laws of logic, we would say that through that argument that the laws of logic must be explained by either A or not A. If it's A, there's nothing in between. It has to be either A or not A. And we argue that atheism cannot explain the laws of logic. So we basically rule it out through the impossibility of the contrary. This is what is crucial here: the impossibility of the contrary. So if we're talking about the laws of logic, if you don't take them, that's why atheists usually take the laws of logic, morality, anything objective, anything objectively true, objectively real, anything objective, they usually have to take it as axioms. That's one of the big weaknesses of atheism, because they cannot create an objective standard for morality or logic. So they have to take it as axioms. What is an axiom? An axiom is taking a position like as a starting point, because if you don't, you cannot have an intelligible conversation.
Right,
so
it's just a brute fact.
Yeah. If you don't accept that logic is objective, then you cannot say anything whatsoever, because it's not going to be objectively, logically coherent. It'll just be an opinion. So you have to accept at least as axioms that the laws of logic exist. So with solipsism, that would lead to all sorts of problems. Not lead, if you have it as a basis of your as your epistemology, it will lead to never being objectively true, because I don't know, maybe you're a brain in the bat, and you will have to as a brain in the bat, then logic is pretty much subjective to whatever the evil genius that is controlling you in the bat it's pointing in there. So you will never have any certainty. So it has to be impossible. And if God exists, we can derive teleology. Since there's a creator, that means that the laws of logic were put for a purpose. You can draw purpose from an atheistic perspective. It can only be driven from a theistic perspective. So from theism, you would have objective laws of logic, and if you have objective laws of logic and purpose for the reality, etc., then you don't have any basis to have solipsism as to be relevant whatsoever. So it's out of the question for theists. It's impossible for us to adhere to that. You want to add something to that, or you want to move to the next?
No, it's very thorough.
All right, cool, man. All right, we got again our friend Peter Leflake. He says, thanks for answering. That's pretty informative. I can totally relate to that burden proof thing. When I saw Dillahunty sat with Inspiring Philosophy, IP is Inspiring Philosophy, he was just arguing on what's possible and not the real feasible reasons Inspiring Philosophy was given. Yeah, honestly, that was a good debate. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. He didn't even took notes. He just had his little notebook. He didn't prepare a PowerPoint or anything. He was just I am not convinced.
Right. That's so hard. It's so hard for us to have a conversation when they're just not convinced. I mean, they're not convinced of a lot of things. And what is disappointing is when they call and they say that when they say it's just a lack of belief. My problem with that is that they say it's a lack of belief, so they avoid the burden of proof. Now, I'm not saying that's intentional. It might be for some, but not for all. But they still are able to avoid the burden of proof by saying that they just lack a belief. But then they argue. As if there isn't a God, and they actually believe there isn't a God. So when I ask my interlocutor, do you really think there's a God? He'll say no. So he'll say that no God exists in terms of the way he argues, but he'll always fall back on I just lack belief when it comes in. So there's no way to get at it because he says he's not making any claims, yet he argues as if there isn't a God, and so that makes it very difficult to talk to.
Yeah, one of the things with Matt Dillahunty, his tactic even got his own name. We got to give him that. His tactic got his own name. We call him, not just we, but I don't know who called it first, but they call it the
Dillahunty Dodge. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. You don't have to bring proof for your position. You don't have to bear the burden of proof. You just say, "I am not convinced," and that somehow has any value. Well, it doesn't, but but yeah, I am not convinced. So why doesn't this work? So I asked a friend. He's a true agnostic from philosophy of religion. He's a yeah, he's a classical. He's more in solid intellectual circles. He's an actual serious. He's a serious philosopher, and he would say that what's happening with these internet atheists, the new atheists, is that. Pretty much philosophers are not interested on your state of mind. So not being convinced is a state of mind, and right. they don't care about that. Because imagine how would they advance on new on philosophical arguments, like making them more extensive. You got to bring answers. If they're wrong, it doesn't matter. Like you just bring an answer, they explore it, and with that exploration, that answer that you're giving, that's kind of burying your burden of proof. You bury it for different branches or strands of a certain argument, a certain objection. So you're saying you're not convinced doesn't bring absolutely anything of value to the question of God's existence whatsoever. It doesn't work, but somehow it convinces people online, atheists that just want to believe what their atheist people have to say. But it's not really taken seriously in high circles of philosophy and religion. It's not taken seriously, but. You want to add anything to this?
Nope, that sounds good.
All right, we got right here a friend. He says, thanks. Yeah, no problem. And he's putting another question. So, all right, 3 steps ahead says, why is your base position no God? If you lack belief in God, then you're basically claiming there's another possibility of existence to be a reality.
Right, and they will just claim that they don't know. And then they'll claim humility. They'll say, well, that's a good thing. We're just being humble. We're saying we just don't know. And I've even asked before, okay, well, at what point can we know? Because I have a feeling that even like, that no matter what it is, that they're just not going to know. And unless it's not God, and then they can have certainty. So there's all kinds of things we have certainty on, not Cartesian certainty, but beyond reasonable doubt certainty on. And they're okay accepting those because it doesn't have anything to do with God. But then when you throw God in the mix, now all of a sudden, no. We just don't know. We have no idea how the universe started. But it can't be God. We know that.
Yeah, one of my favorite, I would say, defenses on this position will be to saying making a case to make their case impossible. So, for example, let's say when they say who created the universe, well, you can put the omni properties of God, you can put the whatever properties God has of being omnipresent, omnipotent, all knowing, being transcendent, immaterial. Yeah, maybe some people add divine simplicity to it. So aseity, you get all these things. So they usually try to put something else into the question. So let's say, oh no, it's a universe. This is a Matt the Hunty one. Universe
Right.
creating pixies.
Right.
That's
Okay.
what he says.
Yeah, you're basically calling God a pixie. Okay. Whatever you're getting, that's all they do is they just give all of the characteristics and properties of God to something else, and it's like I don't think you understand. A pixie is something material. It takes up space. It can't be.
Oh
It can't
no,
be
but this
that.
pixie is
Oh,
immaterial.
now
Oh,
you're just you know what? Somebody did that against William Lane Craig
oh.
in a debate, and I remember William Lane Craig just said, "Well, now you're just giving this thing the properties of God. What we're talking about is God, you know. So you can't get around this God thing by adding properties to something else that you want. Now, I find it interesting though that people like Richard Dawkins. Now, I know there's been a lot of pushback recently about this that he believes in panspermia, or at least that's a possibility that aliens seeded our planet with life. And so I find it interesting that he's willing to concede that possibly, but not God. And I think Frank Turek a lot of times he will bring up the point is that the difference between God and aliens is aliens has no say over your life in terms of morality. They are asking nothing of you, at least as far as we know of, and they demand nothing of you, but God is placing certain moral responsibilities upon us. And if there is a God, then we have to ask the question, well, what is he like, and does he want something from us? And then naturally that draws certain conclusions that many atheists aren't willing to go down that road. They're just not interested in accepting those kind of moral responsibilities. And so it's crazy just how easy they'll latch onto something with the God properties or a creator that isn't God because of that, because it isn't God.
Yeah, let me expand a little bit on it. And that Richard Dawkins, his statement on aliens. Yeah, I remember it. I don't know where I saw it, but yeah, I remember it. That that's pretty much intelligent design. They're pretty much claiming intelligent design, but
and he's just kicking the can back. Aliens, but he's just kicking the can back too, because then the question is who created the aliens? I mean, you ultimately
multiverse.
Right? You ultimately have to end up with then aliens are just unnecessary. That we'll just shave it off with Occam's razor. The bottom line is you have to have some kind of necessary being that is spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, the grounding of everything else. It has to be the brute fact. What is your brute fact?
Exactly, and let me expand a little bit on that. So, to explain how you cannot fit a universe-creating pixie or a unicorn or a flying spaghetti monster, how you cannot add any of those whatsoever to the God question because of ontology. So, on the ontology of an object, let's say you got a stop sign. The stop sign has I don't know, like is it 6, 8 sides, whatever. Well, it's red. It has the letter stop. It has a pole. It has an ontology. So even if you don't have one materially, you can imagine the ontology of stop sign. So, and it has properties. But if you say if you grab a cone, a safety cone, or whatever other object, a shoe, whatever, and you say, "Oh no, this is a stop sign," and I'm like, "What? Why is that a stop sign?" Well, Yeah. I mean, why is that shoe a stop sign? And they would start claiming that, oh no, well, this stop sign has this shoe has the qualities of a stop sign, so
Right.
this shoe
It's a special.
has
It's a
a
special
hole.
shoe. Right.
Yeah, it's a very special shoe, and it has 8 sides. It's red. Okay, man, you're describing the ontology of a stop sign, and you're just calling it a shoe. That's what is happening. And some of that, it is impossible because, for example, one of the qualities of God is to be immaterial. So if you got, let's say, a pixie with a limited ontological description, let's say if you still want to call it a pixie, you don't know what a pixie is. A pixie, I don't know what to look like, but I think it probably has some kind of like butterfly, like a
little wand, a little wand, you know.
A little wand. Yeah. So if that has that ontological property, it is not immaterial. A spaghetti is material. It has a wheat and flour just mixed up, and I don't know, maybe someone can pass us a recipe.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. So it's not immaterial. So you pretty much contradict the definition of spaghetti if you put immaterial. So no, you cannot just replace the word God with spaghetti monster or universe creating pixies, whatever. It's a total trash. A tactic that they get from atheists. I agree with Jamie that they don't do it intentionally. Like, I think they genuinely believe that, but it's genuinely terrible.
Right. It's bad either way. Yeah.
Yeah, either way. But we got another question over here. So, why is it that they're all about science, which works on everything beginning to exist, having a cause, but when it comes to the universe or contingent existences, suddenly the atheist throws causality out?
Right. It's because of the conclusion. It's because of the conclusion. Listen, and this guy 3 steps ahead is spot on. If the atheist or if the universe had some kind of natural cause, then they would be like, listen, I actually have people say, like in one of my discussions with Scott, he said that when we're talking about nothing, we're talking about the philosophical understanding of nothing. And he says, well, we've never had any experience with nothing, so we really don't know what it can or cannot do. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, listen, if I had said that, so if I had said that and I was trying to push my thing on him, he would call me anti-science and not reasonable and so on and so forth. But because the explanation is God, that's not the explanation they want. And I'm not saying it's because they want to sin. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. I just know that isn't the kind of cause they're looking for. And so they can throw these kind of things out the window, even though they claim that science is the end all be all. They're willing to throw it out when it comes to the cause of the universe. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh man. Honestly, I thought like almost every atheist abandoned that already. So I wasn't expecting your co-host to accept that, because if you see all the YouTubers, man, they don't bring that objection anymore. They kind of they dropped it. They put it in the basement and lock it with a key and put some chains on that. So
right. No. And you know what the thing is they part of the problem too is what they do is they'll say, when we're talking about the beginning of the universe, and we talk about nothing, and they'll say, well, it's possible that nothing could have done something. And I say, no, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the Lawrence Krauss definition of nothing. I'm talking about the philosophical understanding of nothing. It's no thing. It can do nothing. And then they get angry when we say, oh, you guys say that we think things just pop into existence without a cause for no reason. Well, that is the implication of your belief, right? That is the implication of your belief. So if there was nothing, if space, time, and matter is all there is, and there was no space, time, and matter before the acceleration or the Big Bang of the universe, then there was nothing before the beginning of the universe, which means the universe had to pop into existence out of nothing. It's the implication of what they believe. But it blows my mind. They say I'm setting up some kind of straw man. No, that is what you believe if you hold if you hold consistent views. That's what you would have to believe if you don't think that there's some immaterial, transcendent creator.
Preach it, Jamie. Preach it. Yeah, there's a really funny video from Richard Dawkins, man. It was with Cardinal Pell. I don't know if you remember, but
yeah.
So he asked him the question. So is then nothing is something? And he was like, yes. And
right.
everybody laughing. So
everybody laughed. He goes, "What are you all laughing about?"
You guys should watch that.
Yeah, he said, "Nothing's funny." Nothing's funny. Like he just didn't get the joke was on him.
Yep. Yeah, maybe he gets it now. I don't know. We'll pray for him. But I want to add one thing that we're missing. So, okay, so 3 steps ahead was saying that they're all about science, which works and everything. No, actually, the main problem with this is that it is a category fallacy in the sense that you got you got something that can only be answered philosophically. For example, if you make the truth claim that only science can give you truth claims, well, if you write that down, you notice that is a truth claim. Right. So, and you don't have to prove it empirically; you have to prove it logically. So you cannot use that sentence and put it on the microscope and repeat it in science. No, there's some things that can only be answered philosophically. And God, since God by definition is transcendent, being beyond space, time, and matter, you cannot apply empiricism to God since He is beyond time, space, and matter. So you got to answer that philosophically. Mm-hmm. That's why we have many arguments, and that's why we argue through an inference to the best explanation, and from personal experience, from all the times that Jesus has appeared in the Middle East, in dreams, on people that near-death experiences in hospitals, and the historical Jesus, the historical sites like Sodom and Gomorrah that were found, and you have some impacts of the fire that describes that fell to the city. They found some kind of impacts like that. So I mean, you make your inference, if it happened or not, whatever. You got all these things, and even though there's of course you use evidence, you use historical evidence, you use science, you use all these tools. It is ultimately that evidence has to be interpreted under a philosophical lens. You got to make a logical case, and that's one of the biggest problems. And one last little thing on this comment is that. There was a debate between William Lane Craig and Sean Carroll. I think Sean Carroll. I think he's a cosmologist, a really renowned scientist. So one of the things, usually for causality, they appeal to the A model of time, which has a beginning, and there's a B model of time, which you appeal for the universe to be timeless. So Sean Carroll actually did quite well. He fought pretty hard. Something that Sean Carroll wanted. Some people are saying that William Lane Craig wanted. So I don't know who wanted it. I think both people did a really great job. But one of the things that I didn't got from the debate, I got it from an interview, that was after the debate. So they asked him, which one do you believe? So with Craig, he was appealing to the B theory of time, saying that, oh no, the universe could be timeless. But in the interview, he was saying, well, like most scientists believe that it is A, and I think it's A. So what? So you went on a debate with Craig, appealing for the B theory of time, and you believe in the A theory of time. That's what we're dealing with. And you're getting this from a very reputable, really prominent scientist. That's what you're getting from me.
Yeah, it's crazy because sometimes, you know what? I'm not the smartest guy ever. Okay, I'm still working on my undergrad, so I'm not a PhD, and so there's times when I scratch my head and go, man, I'm able to figure this out. How is it that you have someone like Richard Dawkins or name any one of those new atheists? How is it that these guys can't figure that out? Like how am I able to wrap my mind around the idea that nothing isn't something called nothing, that nothing really is no thing? How is it that I can figure that out philosophically, and I'm still working on my undergrad, and you got people with PhDs, and be it in a different field, still you got Dawkins with a PhD in biology, and he can't figure that out? Like, sometimes I scratch my head and go, are they being willfully ignorant? Is this willful?
I mean, they get boasted on science, and they forget totally about philosophy. I think atheists, I don't know if you noticed, but I think atheists are not well-rounded. Like, if you notice apologists, we gotta be on all around, like a jack of all trades. Like we debate history, Old Testament, morals, New Testament.
Yep.
We were exegesis. Well, we have to theology, science, philosophy. Like we got to know this stuff to defend our faith. An atheist, usually they're not well-rounded. Right. I don't know about you, but I don't think I've met a very well-rounded atheist like that does all these kind of things. They usually like specialize in just one branch, and
they stick to science, and that while a lot of them will say that philosophy can add to certain disciplines, they will ultimately say that science is really the only way to know truth, which obviously is self-refuting. So, I mean, that's a philosophical statement that you just made just now, and so that while they'll give philosophy and other disciplines some credence, ultimately they go back to their altar. It is their altar of science, and that's where they want to hang their hat, and they want everything to be broken down to or sifted down to science, and that's the only way we could know certain things.
Exactly. Yeah, you can just defeat it with a one-liner. Okay, put that statement on there. A microscope and prove it to me. Yeah, that's it. Case done. It's all over.
Yeah.
All right. We got a question from again our friend Peter Lake. So, any thoughts about Ed Feser? I'm starting to read about his works, and he's pretty heavy philosophically, but very good altogether for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's an extremely well-reputable philosopher. You should be studying reputable sources, and he is a reputable scholar. He's pretty solid. Just one disclaimer. So, I mean, if you're on Wisdom Media on our page or my Facebook, whatever, like, you're probably a Protestant. I don't know if you're a Catholic or not. So, if you're a Protestant, I would just give you the disclaimer that Ed Feser goes from a traditional Roman Catholic perspective, but he's pretty rigorous. But yeah, just got to give that disclaimer so you can know what you're reading into, and what the bias is whenever you read it, Peter. So yeah, I would. So if I recommend it, I would say, I mean, it's good. I mean, you should be reading these people, these rigorous philosophers, rigorous scientists, and anything rigorous. You should stick with the good sources. But yeah, just keep in mind some scholars have gotten astray. So, for example, like Michael Licona, he denied the inerrancy of Scripture, but you get also Dr. N.T. Wright that has a new perspective on Paul, which many would say it's quite heretical. And N.T. Wright, I think he's more on the Catholic side, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So you just got to be careful.
He's Orthodox.
Yes, Orthodox. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So and also Richard Swinburne. I think he's Orthodox also. So you just got to watch out with that.
Now, these guys that we're talking about, I think Israel, you and I would both agree that we're not kicking these guys out of heaven, right? That they're still within Orthodox Christianity, so to speak, like the big overall big the big C church, right? So I wouldn't say they're not saved. I would just say that some of their line of thinking is questionable. Like, I like Mike Lakota. I love his work with Gary Habermas on the resurrection of Jesus. I'm just not sure I appreciate his issue, like with the inerrancy issue, so I'm careful with that. So I think it has to be a disclaimer with some of these folks, but I think both you and I would agree we're not kicking them out of the kingdom. We're not saying they're not Christian. They're just maybe people you have to be careful with depending on what you're reading.
Yeah, well, when it comes to salvation, I'm still, I moved to the Reformed faith, so they're usually more rigorous when it comes to salvation. It's a little bit more narrower. So,
are you a Calvinist? You're not a Calvinist.
Yeah, I'm a Calvinist. Yeah, I'm a Calvinist.
Yeah, no. It's over. Shut it down. Where's the mute? I'm done.
We're done. Okay. Now, but I don't know. I'm questioning mere Christianity, but I'm a little bit in between. I'm not sure where I take on their salvation, but I guess it's a question for another day. But I would love mere Christianity to be true, but I don't know how true it can be. But they got a different epistemology when it comes to Eastern Orthodox and Catholics. So they start with the Catholics. They would argue that the base of their epistemology is apostolic tradition. But we know that it is not apostolic tradition. It's what we would call sola ecclesia. Why? Because they can make up whatever tradition and read it into a text and dogmatize it. You got things like the Marian dogma. I think it was the Immaculate Conception. I'm not sure which one it was.
Immaculate Conception, yeah.
Yeah, but it was dogmatized 1,800 years after Jesus. I mean, how do you dogmatize something 1,800 years after? Right. But yeah, so they got different epistemology in the Eastern Orthodox. They don't have sola ecclesia since they don't accept the papacy. So they're more about apostolic tradition. So they're a different branch. I would say I respect the Eastern Orthodox a little bit more than Catholics, but I don't know, man. I think if they got work in philosophy and history, whatever branch of Christianity that can help us as Protestants, I guess you should read that. Just be careful with the disclaimers. Just be careful with what they believe, because even for scholars, like no one is everybody can fall for some errors. So maybe we do have errors like that too. So I guess we all have to be careful with what we believe.
I'm Pentecostal, so I'm sure a lot of people think I'm heretical. So
man, get out of here! Now I'm kicking you out, man.
But I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not a snake juggling Pentecostal. We're very conservative. We believe in the gifts of the Spirit. Right. And we believe that they're still in operation today, but we don't we're not charismatic. I wouldn't call myself charismatic. When I think charismatic, I think of like the people barking at the altar and, like that, the kind of crazy nonsense. That's nonsense. And that isn't at least my branch of Pentecostal. Yeah. We're way more conservative than that. We just believe that God can still heal people. And God can still do other things, and that's the primary difference between us and, I guess.
Well, not really. I mean, we do believe in miracles too, and I'm Reformed. Like, we're in very different sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, I know a lot of Reformed who are cessationists. They don't believe that that God works same ways.
No, it depends what you mean by cessationist, because for example, I like how Frank Turek puts it. So he says there's the fact of miracles and there's the gift of miracles. So we would say that, for example, what was given to the apostles, they were given a higher authority to do miracles. they were giving that special authority. So and we don't have that authority. So you cannot just go to a disabled person and say you're healed, and
Right.
boom, he gets up and gets walking. No, they got to be much more humble. You got to work with the fact that miracles can happen, but it's all to the sovereignty of God, in the sense that let's say you ask God, and God, if you could be graceful enough to give us to give us a miracle to heal this person, that will be good. If not, may all the glory still be with you for you. And I mean, it's all to you if you want to make this healing or not. So it's, you go with that attitude. I'm not saying you should pray like that, but
I don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, we can't think at all that we somehow yield this power, that somehow we're in charge of this, and that we do what we like. That's not what I think at all. I think you're barking up the right trees. That we try to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit, and we try to be humble. And if God decides He wants to heal, then that's on Him, and if He doesn't, that's on Him too.
Exactly, big agreement there, man. You see a Calvinist and a Pentecostal king.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We just proved it, man. Woo. Spit it out. Yeah, because I spit it out. Yeah, we spit it out, man. We preach it. Preach it, Jamie Goodlet. Let him know. Okay. I think this was interesting, because I did thought about that objection when I was talking about the ontology and how a pixie is that is a material, and a pixie, this material, it cannot be so. But I did thought about that objection. So it's good that you bring that up. It's good that you catch it, man. This guy 3 steps ahead. He's 3 steps ahead. It's literally 3 steps ahead, man. Props to that guy, man. So okay. So the way it works when it comes to God, God is a triune God. We get that through a special revelation. So from general revelation, you get that God could exist. From special revelation, you get some special attributes of God. So it's something that you can only know if God reveals it to you. So with a special revelation on the Trinity, we know it's one being in 3 persons. So Jesus will be fully God and fully man. Make sure you don't fall for Nestorianism, denying the hypostatic union. So you have to accept the fact that he's fully God and fully man. However, the point that we were going with the pixies is that now the atheists will have to add a Trinity to the pixie. So again, we're putting the ontology of something else into whatever you want it to be. In this case, the pixie. So the atheist would have to put the triune attributes onto the pixie, and now say that okay, it's immaterial, but in this form, it's a pixie. So again, you get to the same problem. It's just
the way I read this question was, if God's immaterial, then how can he be, or part of him be, or how can Jesus be material? And so that's just kind of the way I saw that. And I mean, obviously we think God was able to create everything ex nihilo, from nothing. So if he was able to, as a spirit or an unembodied mind, if God was able to create everything from nothing, then it should be a walk in the park for him to place himself in the womb. The second person of Jesus placed himself in the womb of Mary as a physical being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, maybe it wasn't for the other question. I think it was like a follow-up from the question that he asked before. Maybe I got that wrong, but yeah, I guess you would appeal from the claims of Jesus. The way C.S. Lewis puts it, it's either Lord, liar, lunatic, or legend. So he cannot be several of them. If you say he's a good teacher, but I mean he's lying, saying he's God, he's not a good teacher. He would be a liar. So if you say he's a good teacher, but also a lunatic, he cannot be a good teacher and a lunatic, because then he could just be imagining stuff, imagining that he's God or something like that. So and you get one of that thing for every single part. So it has to be one either way. But he was pretty wise. We have evidence that he was not a legend. He was not a liar. He actually was correcting people that were liars or people that were trying to be deceitful, like the Pharisees. And we know that
the biggest way to refute the liar aspect of it is if God, if Jesus were lying, why on earth would God then vindicate Jesus, the liar? You know what I'm saying? So Jesus rising from the dead is God's vindication that, yes, this is Jesus, second person of the Trinity. What he says is true. Why on earth would God vindicate a liar? I mean, he just wouldn't. So the mere fact that Jesus rose from the dead is proof or vindication that what he said was true. And obviously he claimed to be God. So that's how we get that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We got Peter Left Lake speaking about nothing. Alex O'Connor argued with Craig about maybe the universe has a property of coming out of nothing. It was hilarious, even how Will and Craig responded. I saw that interview, but it was really, I gotta give a lot of props to Alex O'Connor, to be honest.
I like him.
Yeah,
I like him.
I like the guy. I love him because he's like probably one of the most honest atheists out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One of the most honest. He's like super open to learning, and after his talk with Craig, he actually renounced, not renounced. He changed a lot of his objections against the Kalam cosmological argument, thanks to his talk with Craig. And this is how you know an atheist has a total trash content. It's when they say something like, "Oh, William Craig is a fraud," or he's dumb or something. Yeah. That's how you know they're totally dumb. So Alex O'Connor used to say that, but after that interview, he's like, he's insanely smart. He's not a joke. He's legit, and that's what that's how you identify a terrible atheist if they say something like that about Craig. It's a top tier scholar, like it's literally top three.
Right. As sure. Braxton Hunter says, you throw out the 1 stars and you throw out the 5 stars and the stars in between. So like if you're rating something, if you're looking at ratings for something, oftentimes people that give 5 stars would have given 5 stars if it was trash. And people who give it 1 stars would have given it 1 stars even if it was the greatest thing ever. And so it's one of those things where if somebody is saying something off the charts crazy in one direction or another, like there's no evidence at all. Like there is, what did Dawkins and the like say? They would say that there isn't a shred of evidence for God. I'm like, dude, when they say stuff like that, you just don't take them seriously. You can't, because it's just not serious. They are not taking it serious, or they're being willfully ignorant.
You know what I've noticed from the comment section, from all these debates? I've noticed that you got some top tier apologists, like some Will Lane Craig type of guy, and they debate with an atheist without even the basics of philosophy. And atheists think that the atheists won. So they're so I guess they're so unfamiliar with the Christian scholarship that they don't even understand what the Christian position is.
Well, and they think that often when someone's good at rhetoric, like Christopher Hitchens or someone like that, they're good with the audience. They're able to say things that are really pithy and really quick and really funny. And so I think sometimes atheists think that the winner of the debate was the one that got the most zingers. The ones that got the most punches in there. When in reality, that's got nothing to do with it. I mean, that might help you in terms of your popularity with the audience, or it might make you more likable with the audience, but it has nothing to do with debate or if you won the debate. And that's part of the issue. We see people debating Craig, and they're not even debating the topic. They're going with in their rebuttal, they're just bringing up stuff they don't like about Christianity. And it's like, well, this has nothing to do with the debate topic. Like, what are you even talking about? But that is what they do. They jump on all these, 15 or 20 different slogans and things that they don't like about Christianity, and then all of a sudden they think that they won the day.
Yeah, and you usually get this rhetoric, especially for the Old Testament. Like, you got Richard Dawkins and Michael Shermer and all these like extreme atheists. They Gish Gallop. This is the Gish Gallop fallacy. They bring so many objections or so many things that they don't like about God, in order for them, for the apologists, not being able to respond to so many questions or things that they're claiming at a time. Right. I mean, they imagine they just throw at you 30 objections. I mean, how you answer that?
I mean, I love how people like William Lane Craig and Frank Turek have responded to it, because a lot of these, like you said, come from the Old Testament, the objections about slavery and the treatment of women. And what they do, William Lane Craig and others will say, hey, listen, all that crap they just threw at me, we have really, really good answers for it. But I'm not going to cover it now because I won't be able to get to what I want to get to. But go check out Paul Copan's book, Is God a Moral Monster? And so they'll point them to that book to check out. And of course, in his book, he takes to task, Paul Copan does, all these objections about the Old Testament, does a terrific job of, I guess, debunking or refuting these objections. And so they do a good job of just telling them, listen, pound salt. Go read this book. They answer all those questions. I'm not doing it here because that's not the issue that we're supposed to be talking about.
Yeah, let me give an example of how you can use rhetoric. So you guys can be very wary of atheist YouTubers. Watch this. So you got a claim. Let's say you got the claim. Okay, let's say the atheist claim is, okay, maybe a lot of people died. Death is wrong. Therefore, God did something that is morally wrong. So let's say that would be kind of like a formal type of, a little bit more formal, more serious. But if they say, this will be the rhetoric. So God exterminated the Canaanites. So he killed absolutely everything there. And he even some probably innocent people, like, you don't know if they're innocent, like, but you add the word innocent, you add the word genocide, you add the word I don't know. You start and saying things like, "Oh, God is a moral monster, a maniac, a psychopath." Right. So when they start adding that language, they're not taking stuff seriously.
Hitchens used to say that God was a North Korean cosmic dictator in the sky, peering in on our sex lives. That's what Hitchens used to say all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I never liked Hitchens. I just thought he sounded. I mean, I know he's well esteemed. I thought he just sounded like a drunken sailor half the time.
I mean, now that I encounter atheists from a classical atheist, actually like rigorous atheists, I actually like them. But since I discovered these guys, they like now the new atheists. I think now their objections are trash, and now the new atheists, the Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, and I mean Daniel Dennett, I guess was one of the less bad ones of those four, but yeah, still, I don't fall for that stuff anymore. That's I guess now I think atheism is a horrible, just a very silly worldview. Okay. Peter left leg. I guess this one is for me because I'm a Calvinist. Unless you want to convert.
No. This is all on you. I can just stand by and watch you take this.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know. Maybe you'll convert after this stream or whatever. Okay. Peter Left Lake says, "I see you're a Calvinist. I saw Pine Creek debated a Calvinist. I don't think I saw it. Honestly, I don't see any content. Yeah. I don't see any content from Pine Creek, to be honest. Like, I'll just be honest. Like, I don't get compelled by that." And they both agreed in the end of that short clip that it's basically God giving the lifeboat to other people and lets them drown. He chooses who he wants to save. Any thoughts? Well, that'll be unconditional election, God having the sovereignty of choosing who He wants unconditionally. Him having the sovereignty of choosing someone over another, and by being unconditional, it means that you cannot do anything to boast about God choosing you. For example, like when He chose the Israelites, I mean, they were slaves in the land of Egypt. They were. We know through historical sources that they did things as bad as the Canaanites. Even the Bible records the judgments from God to the Israelites because they were acting even worse than the Canaanites. So even the Israelites were doing pretty bad stuff, worshiping idols, doing stuff like that. So it is unconditional. But when it comes to giving the lifeboats and letting them drown, well, there's a lot of things when it comes to divine determinism. We got to know on what is the relationship on the philosophical work of the divine determinism. So, for example, you got a limited world of possibilities, and let's say it would be as working as a second cause or a second. Let's say, for example, you have a police station. So let's say that by the existence of the police station, now that would inevitably cause that there would now be some prisoners that would go to jail. So it is causing indirectly people to go to jail, but you would say that it was still a good thing that police department would be existing. So it wouldn't be directly causing the crime. You wouldn't say that it directly causes crime, but you would say that it allows for the possibility of loss provide the possibility for crime to exist. So, but yeah. So yeah, basically, God will not be giving the lifeboat to some people by the mere ontology of God and His holiness. He chooses certain people and not chooses other people. Does He have any parameters for choosing that? I think He must have some parameters, but we cannot know and we cannot boast and we cannot take credit of any of those parameters. That's why, in our perspective, we cannot have any parameters because then we would take the glory from God. But yeah, basically, He doesn't give the lifeboat to some people and He gives it to another one. I would say that that's a common conclusion that you get from the Calvinist perspective. But yeah, thanks for the question, Peter. All right. According to your belief, Jesus was killed and then resurrected. Where is Jesus now? Where is Jesus' human flesh, resurrected body?
Right hand of the Father. Yep, right. He's in heaven, right hand of the Father. That's where He ascended to, and that's where He is now, currently.
Yep. Oh man, that's not 3 steps ahead. That's not 3 steps ahead, man. Yeah, we're disappointed now. Nah, just kidding. No, man. Oh no, I guess this is the 4th step. That's probably why. This is the 4th step. Yeah, right. She got the first 3 right, but no, man. That's cool. Yeah. So basically, since it's remember what I told before from the from Nestorianism, in that council, when they dealt for Nestorianism in the Council of Ephesus in 425, I think, they came to the conclusion of the hypostatic union that Jesus is fully man, fully God, fully united, fully together. You cannot separate them. You cannot. Yeah, you just cannot separate it in any single way. So if He went up to heaven in a hypostatic union, then his resurrected body and his form of God it's totally there's a total fusion there. So it's together in heaven because of the hypostatic union. So we'll get into that. We'll get into church history. So So you can know this type of doctrines, these dogmatic doctrines that were pretty early in the Christian church. But yeah, I mean, still, there's no. It's good to ask any type of questions, man. That's pretty cool, and hope we answered your question. Okay, so flesh and blood, human body is near God.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know what he's trying to say with this. So maybe
it's a trap. He's setting a pathway here, and it's like a praying mantis. He's gonna.
Man, Jamie, don't ever do that so suddenly, man. Don't ever do that so suddenly. You got me scared, man. Just gonna get a heart attack there. I guess. So how many thrones?
These are good questions. 3 steps ahead. I don't know. What one throne? I don't know. Has he been standing all this time? I guess he doesn't get tired. So, I mean, I guess Jesus is standing and, well, God's a spirit. I don't know. Listen, those are good questions. I don't want to think about it. It's getting late out here and my head hurts already from talking to Israel. I can't do that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He just can't stand Calvinist, man. Too much for him. Yeah, maybe we'll put a song so he can start dancing and and stuff. Oh, I had to throw that one. Sorry. You want to do one last one? All right, from Peter Leflake. So, but what if only true free will Jesus could only be born in Israel and fulfill these works? Just like Doctor Strange, seeing the future events and played it perfectly to have the outcome that would beat Thanos. It would eliminate the need for God just speaking Israel. Is there anything it would increase an atheist's position on God, picking favorite, and it would look unjust? Would you agree that a certain doctrine could be wrong if the conclusion is bad?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, if Calvinism is false, then Calvinism is bad. Also, if Arminianism is false, but I'm not neither. I'm Peter. I'm a Molinist, and that's something similar to what you're talking about, where God remains sovereign because He picked the world in which we currently reside, and all of our free will choices are taken into consideration. But without getting like too far into that, I could see how some atheists would see that the Calvinist position and be, I don't want to say pushed away by it, but I do know there are actually a few. What's the church? The really bad church. I don't even want to call them a church. Where they protest like military funerals and stuff like that, and they're horrible people. I can't remember the name of that church, but there was a girl who left that church and became an atheist, and she said one of the main things her leaving the church was the Calvinistic positions that they took. Now, obviously, I'm not comparing the horrible things they did with Calvinism. I got a lot of good brothers and sisters who are Calvinists. That's got nothing to do with it. It's just the fact that if I were an atheist, that would look to me like determinism. And know much better, so that, at least to me, that's how it would seem.
Yeah, we actually hold to divine determinism. Usually you get most people to be compatibilists in the sense that there is determinism, but people are still morally accountable. That's why there's compatible, because moral accountability is compatible to determinism. But okay, let me answer the question, because it's more on my side. So okay, you got to remember, man, that there's 5 points of Calvinism. There's more doctrines that you can get from confessions. If you're an evangelical, maybe you should try to study the confessions so you can get a better grasp of some of the positions that have been debated and concluded from different councils. Because in the Westminster Confession, I think they had like don't know if 90 or 190. I don't know. They got a bunch of theologians, dozens and dozens and dozens of theologians. They analyze the Bible the best they can. Oh, and top tier theologians, the best theologians, the best people they can find, and they debated, they studied as much as they can, and they came up with the conclusions from the Westminster Confession, which is pretty much the Calvinist position. So we have a pretty rigorous history. But okay, now back to your question. So the first point of Calvinism is the doctrine of total depravity. That's one of the differences we have with our Armenian brothers. They don't believe in total depravity. So what does total depravity has to do with this? Because when with the doctrine of total depravity, it means that man is fallen in a sinful nature, and we all have fallen short of the glory of God. We all sinners, and no one deserves. No one deserves to be with God because we're not holy. We're given to unrighteousness. However, that is why on the 5 points you get total depravity for saying that everybody will be guilty. So you cannot say that God will be unfair, because it is actually fair that everybody should perish. We all have a sinful nature, a totally depraved nature, and we have all fallen short from the glory of God. That means that it is not unfair, because literally we all deserve death. That is why God, in His mercy, in His grace, that's why grace is an undeserved gift. By definition, it's an undeserved gift. Since it is undeserved, we get grace because we don't deserve it. We are bad. We are totally depraved, and God gives it to us anyways, unconditionally. That's how it makes a big difference on that. So yeah, God wouldn't be unfair on that. But did I miss another part of your question?
No, I think you hit pretty much what he was asking.
Yeah,
I hit the second part. I got that second part, and you hit the first part.
I guess it's more about the presupposition. So I guess that's one of the things that happened to me. So whenever I changed to the Reform perspective, because I was Armenian the whole way, you got a different set of glasses. So that is why it's called systematic theology. That's why you study it in systems, because if you get certain premises, certain conclusions, whenever you read a certain verse, you will read it through that system. So it is important, because if you don't have a system, if you don't have a systematic theology, then you will be inconsistent, and you cannot have thoughts all over the place. You cannot believe in God having all the glory and being a synergist, which is that but basically that man and God both are doing the work, and it's a matter of both of us. You take the glory off of God if you make a claim like if you make uncompatible, self-contradictory claims. So that's why you got to be systematic. And in our position, you get a different lens from this system from this systematic theology, because you start with some very basic premises, very undeniable premises from the Bible, and from those conclusions, from what is clear, you start answering what is not clear. So you got to be systematic, man. And I think for example, on your question, I think you asked that question with the Armenian classes. So because of you didn't take into account the 5 points of Calvinism and the Westminster Confession and the conclusions that we get. You kind of mix two. You kind of mix a Calvinist conclusion with a Armenian premise. So it was a little bit incompatible right there. But yeah. I guess hopefully you take a look into that, give it a second consideration. I've been getting a lot into reading Gordon Clark and the Trinity Foundation. Gordon Clark is insanely good. Also reading the Confessions, reading commentaries on that, some Yeah, you got some insanely good theologians on the Reformed part, and I think you should at least read it, man, so you can have a second option, my friend. But yeah, hope that answered your question, Peter Leflake, and Three Steps Ahead. Thank you so much for
yeah, those guys were both terrific.
Yeah, these guys are fantastic, man. And Three Steps Ahead, he was, oh man, change your name to 5 to 10 steps ahead, man. You're the GOAT, man. You're the GOAT. Yeah. Anything you want to add? You want to close?
No, yeah, this would probably be a good time to close. And boy, I really enjoyed this. This was nice. Maybe we could do this again. I also love the impromptu questions. It keeps you on your feet,
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, sometimes when apologists can struggle with something, we sometimes have strengths and weaknesses, and it's good to have more than one apologist, because we can explore it through two different perspectives, and just make a complimentary commentary on what we're dealing with. I think it was great, man, and I think hope the audience liked it, and I certainly like it, and for sure, man, we should do another live like this. Thank you so much, Jamie. It has been a big pleasure, man.
Yeah,
and,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for everybody, again, join the God or Not podcast with Jamie Goodlet. Where can we find your podcast, man?
Well, they're on all the platforms there. So Apple, iTunes, all that kind of stuff. You just search for God or Not, and then subscribe, and you'll get to hear a theist and an atheist duking it out.
Oh, you're everywhere. So you're on TikTok too. Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, you got to do those dancing TikToks.
No dancing. I dance worse than I sing. So
man. You cannot be a Pentecostal and not dance.
Yeah. See, that shows you how conservative my church is. We don't dance. We don't do any of that.
All right, man. I'll give you that. We're pretty proud for that one, but yeah, Jamie, it was a really good time, man. Had a lot of fun, and hopefully we dealt with a lot of tactics that the deceptive guys do, and hopefully our people don't fall for atheism. Atheism is trash.
It is.
Gotta put a sign back there, and it's gonna be my new. I'm gonna take this one off. So
right, yeah. The landscape. Take the landscape out. Replace it with atheism is trash. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. With red letters, so you don't miss it.
That's right.
All right. Well, good to see you guys. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Three Steps Ahead, and whoever else watched the stream. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you guys. We'll do another live later on. But yeah, cool to have you guys, and God bless you all, and we'll see you guys next time.